everyone, welcome back to Plum Mashable. So for today's video I'm using a new medium to make a cute one layer Memorydex card. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so if you're anything like me, you're going to have art supplies or bits and pieces in your collection that you don't use. I reckon I bought these when I was 14. I reckon I saved up, I don't remember, I barely used them. Like when you open it, except for the fact that they all look really old because the colours are cracking off them slowly. They're basically a brand new set of Derwents and I don't use them. And I don't use them because I don't actually like the way that coloured pencils look. I don't like the scratchiness, I guess, of them. So just to sort of show you what I mean. Like even though I can get a very nice sort of colour with them, I don't like the scratchiness of that. What I've done is I've done a bit of Googling and I found out there's this product called Gamsol, which I don't 100% know what it is. It says 100% pure odorless mineral spirits. And the idea is it kind of breaks down the pencil and helps it to blend. So I've got my little bottle of Gamsol here. I've got this from West Art Supplies in Footscray. They don't have a website, but you can find it on a bunch of different art sites. And then I've got one of these little paper stumps. And just to show you, so hold on, I'll do a bit of a comparison thing. So we'll leave this side as a normal coloured pencil, and then I'll just show you what happens when you use the Gamsol on the pencil. And I'm just doing this in little circles, and you'll see when I actually get to making something that it works really nicely. Now the paper stump I'm using has a bit of colour on it already, so that's what this little bit here is. I'm still trying to work out if I need to have a different paper stump for all my different colours, but for now this is working because I'm just experimenting. But there you go, you can sort of see from how streaky, I guess, the Gamsol is, the pencil is, to what it looks like when it's been blended with the stump. It's just so much nicer, and it reminds me a lot. It's not Copic, it's not going to be ever that saturated and that deep, but it's another medium that I think is going to be sort of somewhere between using a coloured pencil, using watercolour and using my Copic, sort of somewhere in between. So I thought today we'd make a little Memorydex card, mainly because I'm not ready to give these out yet. I kind of want to keep them for myself a little bit while I'm using the pencil and kind of learning. But I thought we'd do a little Memorydex card, and just so I can show off, I guess, what the Gamsol can do. So I'm going to cut this to be about sort of 13 centimetres wide by about sort of 10.5 centimetres high. So we'll just mark that out and cut it now. And this is just plain white cardboard. This is just the same stuff I always use, nothing too fancy here. I'll leave the punching of the actual Memorydex bit. Oh, actually no, we'll do it now. We'll do it now so I can see where my cards are and everything. See where my holes are and stuff, I meant. There it is. I always just do the Memorydex punch by sight. There's no measuring involved in that. So I'm going to use a couple of Lawn Fawn sets. The first one is the Over the Mountains Borders, which is a new one to me. It was out in the new, within this, was it September release? Something like that. So I'm just grabbing, whoops, did that the wrong way. Just picking that up with my stamp block. I'm just going to use Tuxedo Black ink. So far I found that this hasn't, the Gamsol doesn't do anything to this ink. I haven't played with all of the inks yet with the Gamsol, but if that's something you're interested in, I can definitely do that. So I'm just going to stamp my little border. So I've got a bit of room to colour in the background. Okay. Just give that a wipe. And there's two borders here with the trees, but before I put those on, I want to put my foreground stuff because I want to mask off a little bit so that I get these in the right spot. So this is kind of a Christmas scene. Yes, it will be a Christmas scene, so I'll put a Christmas sentiment on there. But this one's called Here We Go a Waddling. This one's a really old one, but it's one that I only just recently got my hands on. So I've got the 3 little penguins here who are going to be singing their Christmas carol. I'm going to put them just over here to the right. Ink that up. Oops. And then I'm also going to put down the little lamppost because I think it'll help set the scene really nicely. So put the little lamppost on too. And then I'm going to mask these off. Now I've already cut these masks out, and the reason I did that is because they did take me a little while. So I wanted to make sure that I got it right. I'm actually thinking I might need to put something else over on the side. But I'll see what it looks like once you've got the trees in. So like I said, I've already pre-cut out the mask of these. So we'll put the little penguins on the little penguins. Now you could really easily with this one use the die to cut out the sticky paper because it doesn't matter so much. Because it's a really simple thing we're going over the top with. It wouldn't matter so much if you had to draw that in. But it wasn't too hard to cut out. This is what I love about masks, is you can use them sort of multiple times if you're careful with them. I had ink on my fingers and I've got it on the side here. And because it's just a little bit, this is where I found my sand eraser sometimes can help me out. I think I'll still have a bit of a smear on there, but I think I can find a way to make that work, or just to get over it. I'm sure I can find a way. So then we get the other border out. So there's 2 other borders included in this one. I'm getting the one that's the hill that runs opposite to my mountains. So there's one that's sort of got the same hill here, so I'm using the opposite one. Having this sort of sitting down just below where the penguins are, so that the trees sort of pop out from behind them. And then when we take off the mask, it'll look normal because the penguins and stuff are still at the front. Number 1 thing we've learnt today is make sure your fingers are clean before you start stamping on perfectly good plain white cardboard, because you will get it everywhere. That's okay. We learn things. Give them a good wipe so we can kind of get going with this. So what I'll do with the Derwents, because they do have names, I will let you know the names of them sort of as we go along, but I will speed through most of the colouring. I'll do a couple of the trees with you because I want to show you how they blend, how I've been able to get the colours to blend a little bit, because they do. So if we start off with the penguins, I'm getting 2 different, I'm getting a grey and a black, so I've got gunmetal and ivory black. So we'll do the penguins first. So I'm starting with the gunmetal, and the good thing is you don't need to be particularly careful, and you'll see this when I do the bit at the top that I'm pretty rough with it. I have been practicing a little bit, but this is still, I still think these are first impressions. They're very early impressions if they're not first impressions, because I have experimented just a bit, but I'm assuming I'll get better as I keep playing with these. So I'll just do 1 penguin with you. So I've got the little penguin that's got all this grey, and then I'm just coming in with the black and just putting that where I want just a little bit more darkness. Go. And then we'll go in with the little stump. Now, I'm like I said, I'm a little wondering if I need to have more than 1 stump. If I need to have 1 for different colours, because like this, I was using blue before, and there's still just a little bit of colour on there. So all I've been doing is just giving it a quick rub off before I start with the next colour, and so far that's been working pretty well. And I just sort of point it, or get the point back so that it's a bit easier to blend with. And I just leave the Gamsol in the bottle, tap off just a little bit of the excess so you don't have it soaking wet. And I tend to start where the dark is and sort of drag that into the light. And you can see that the spirit is kind of breaking up the pencil as I'm using it. But you can, the dark is a little hard. You've got to kind of work it, especially with the black. But it's like blending with a Copic. It doesn't, you don't just sort of go straight onto it and it works. You've kind of got to play with it a little bit. Got that first bit done. And when I was originally playing with this, I was playing with really small images, which I was having real issues with because my pencil obviously isn't that small. I know you can get these paper pencils in, or paper stumps in lots of different colours. It does bleed a little bit because, and that's more to do with the not having a point. There is a point on the other side, but I'm trying to keep one end clean, I guess. They weren't very expensive. Like the paper stump was 90 cents. This was $15. So it's not as an expensive experiment, but I think it's an interesting experiment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and colour in the rest of the penguins and then other little bits along the way. I'll come back so I can show you the trees because they're going to blend really nicely as well, but I'll sort of do bit by bit and sort of come back and talk to you, but speed through it a little bit so we're not sitting here forever while I colour these in. So I'm going to go ahead and get to it and I'll be back. So they're the penguins done. You would have seen I grabbed out my paintbrush just for the top of the earmuffs. I was having real trouble getting my pencil in, and you would have seen along the way I did end up using that on the side of the stump. The biggest trouble I'm having is not with the blending, it's with the stump. It's just a little bit too big. I think I might need to go and get another one that's a bit thinner or find something else that works. Paintbrushes, if the paintbrush works, it just doesn't drag the colour as well because you're not sort of putting any pressure on it whatsoever, but it works. So then for the trees, I'm going to try, so I'm going to show you something a little bit different. So I'm grabbing sort of a dark-ish green, Juniper Green, and then I'll grab a bit more of a bright green. So this is grass green. So I'm putting the Juniper down as sort of the base colour. And And this is where you can kind of get some cool blending stuff happening. So then I'm putting the juniper kind of where I want the shadow. And I'll come back in, just get rid of some of this purple. I tend to just twist it again, which gives me a bit of a point. It's just not giving me as much of a point as I want. But anyway, then you can come in and blend them together. And you get that cool shadow. The biggest thing is keeping it in the lines, especially with these little ones. The other thing you can do is you can come in on top of. So if you find that the Gamsols drop the colour just a little bit too much, you can come straight back on the top with a bit more pencil and then blend back in again, and it doesn't damage anything. Or I haven't found it damaging anything yet anyway. So I'm going to finish doing the trees. I'm also going to do the sky and the mountains, and I'll be right back. I've put the French grey all over the, I think it was the French grey, the lighter one. I've put that all over the mountains, and I've gone back in with the darker grey. The darker grey is a slightly different shade, so it's going to look a bit weird in pencil, but I have a feeling when I've started blending, it'll come together the way I want it to. So I'm just working it. It does blend in really nicely. It gives me that darker sort of bit I want just under that snow cap. Sky, and I want to do it as a really dark blue sky, so I've got indigo here. Put a little bit of indigo. I might put just a little bit of a lighter dark blue, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Not Prussian blue. Not really blue. Maybe it will be Prussian blue. I'm just going to put a little bit of the Prussian blue like right at the bottom and then go up to the dark. The only thing so far that I've found when you're doing big areas is you want to put all your pencil the same way. I find it blends a little bit better. It's a little hard going into these little peaks or troughs, sorry, but just do your best with it. I think so far the part about this I'm not liking is just the it's just that I can't quite get the stump into the areas I want, in that it's a little bit too big, but this sort of area you'll see is much easier. So I'm just gonna colour this in. I do love, I don't like that part, I do love that I don't have to be too particular, I guess, that I can just lay the colour down and then I know I can get the blend afterwards. The biggest thing is trying not to run over these mountains. Big areas, I find the easiest way to do this is to work in little circles, and this is where you'll see the real blend, because you'll be able to go, oh wow, that makes sense. So if you sort of start up here just work in little circles, kind of the same way we do with Copics. You sort of work in those little circles. That's where you get the best sort of evenness. And then afterwards we'll come back over the top and try and pull it all back so it looks the same. Looks like it's all going the same direction. Hardest thing with using the paper stump is like knowing when it's dry, because you don't feel it, but it's sort of a bit, you'll get the hint when the colour's not kind of moving around as much. I'm probably dropping this in a little bit more often than I need to, but I think as I get better at this I might be able to kind of go a little bit longer. It's also if I can't kind of get it to blend the way I want, I'll just dip it in. It does sort of transfer through a little bit on the back, but nothing like a Copic does. I don't know if I'd use this in my planner. I hadn't sort of thought about that, but I might give it a go. It might have to be an experiment video where I use Gamsol in lots of different places, just to see what I can get away with. It looks a lot like denim. I'm just looking at that thinking, wow, that looks denim. I like the way that the sky has come together with that little bit of a blue, light blue at the bottom. So now what I'm going to do, now I've got it all coloured in, I'm just going to go back over the top a little bit more roughly, and just try and work out anywhere that it looks a little bit too not blended, or if I've missed a spot, or if it looks a little bit too messy. Like I said, if there's a spot that you see that you go, I really want a little bit more dark there or a little bit more light there, you can just put a little bit more pencil in, because you can just go straight over the top. And I'm wondering how I'm going to do cheeks, because I usually just do them with a very light Copic, but I don't know if I've got one that's going to be quite light enough. So this one's called Flesh Pink. Just going to use that where the little cheeks would be, and then just dot that to try and get that to blend out a little bit. Definitely very subtle, but it's there. And then I just want to get just a little bit of shadow going, so I'm grabbing the lightest grey I've got, which is that silver grey, and I'm just going to put just a little bit of shadow. So if you're thinking the light's coming here, which way would the shadows be? And they'd kind of be next to them and then off to the right. So I'm just putting a little bit of shadow, a little bit of messy, just a little bit of messy. And then coming back in again as clean as I can with my stump so that I don't get any darkness or anything. Blending that so it looks a little bit nicer. It'll look a little bit dark now, but it'll dry. It'll dry a little bit more. I think it might be still a little bit blue, but it'll work. Okay. I'm just looking at it going, what else do I need? Do I need anything else? I feel like I need some stars. Oh, that book needs to be coloured in. Ryan says to colour the book in purple, so I'm going to colour the book in purple. This one's called Delft Blue. I'm just checking. No, that's too dark. I did use that other purple before, so maybe we use the same colour purple. Dark violet. I might use the dark violet and then just sort of put a little bit of lighter violet. This one's called Red Violet Lake. I don't want that one. I want this one. This one's Blue Violet Lake. Colour those two together. That might get us a nice blend. Alright, so just to finish this off, I'm going to put the lid back on the Gamsol. I'm just going to grab my little gel pen, my white gel pen, and I'm just going to put some stars in the sky. So I'm just seriously dotting, not being too particular here or being fancy or anything, but I sort of thought I'd go through what I'm thinking. So I really like this. I think it's a different finish to anything I already have. I don't think I could get this effect with any other medium that I own. And I was saying to Ryan before, like, to get out and actually use my Derwents, which, like I said, I've had in my collection for so long and have never used. If it's cost me $16, $17, so $15 for the Gamsol and 90 cents for the stump, I think that's actually a good deal. Like, you sort of, I haven't saved myself any money, and I've spent money, but I'm getting use out of something that under normal circumstances I wouldn't use, if that makes sense. So I kind of like having a different medium to play with. It gives me another thing to kind of experiment with and learn with, because I've definitely expanded sorry, I've definitely expanded my mediums this year. I've learned how to use Copics, I've learned how to use inks. I kind of like the idea of adding in coloured pencils as well, and just having another thing to use that sort of makes something look different and to give something a different finish. So I'm certainly not finished learning anything about the Gamsol. I'm sure I'll learn things along the way. If you have any tips or things that you think I should know about using Gamsol, please leave it down below, and that way I can learn and I can pass it on to other people as well. I will be experimenting with this a lot in the next couple of months. You may not see it on camera, so don't get too panicky, but you might see it over on Instagram. If you follow me there, you might see some cards that I make using coloured pencils instead of using my Copics. If you did enjoy this video and like learning sort of about these random weird things, please let me know. You can leave me a thumbs up, or you can of course leave me a comment or find me on any of my socials. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel too, so you don't miss any future videos from me. Hope you have an absolutely awesome weekend, and I'll catch you in my next video. Sending lots of huggles. Bye!